Hi, it's Kerry Miller. I am Second Vice President of the Food and Beverage Equipment Executives. It's February 17th, 2013, and I'm joined by a past president, Bob Schwartz, Executive Vice President of Vienna Beef, and Nick Sievers, who is with Packaging Solutions and actually one of the senior members of the Food and Beverage Equipment Executives. We're going to interview Nick and talk to him a little bit about our organization and how it's affected his career over the years. And I think we're in for a treat. So, Nick?
Okay. Nick, it's really a pleasure to do this because I think that over the years, the Food Beverage Group has become something that gets into your soul, almost like a fraternity of sorts. And
exactly
it's
like
nothing like any networking group I've ever seen, because it's something that's lasting, and friendships are made, and business is done, and it's just an important place to be when you're in the food industry.
I totally agree with you. I started off and joined in 1960. My father was the originator of this club, and I have the original charter here, which I'm giving to the club, of all the detail of what it was. And the concept was completely camaraderie, and they did have something that was called leads back in 1940. It said the important part of the food, beverage, and equipment executive were leads. And the members at that time, I do have an interesting view. I was going through all the information I have. Bob had asked me, well, what's the difference when the club started and now? Way back then, everybody smoked. That was number one. Number two, they all wore ties and suits and everything. I have a photograph of which shows from way back at the Drake Hotel of all the people. Just hold it up for a moment this way, and it shows all the members. And the associations that I've had all those years, the friendships, the bonding, have been incredible for my life, for an attitude of business, but beyond that was the pleasure, because the phone would always ring between all of our members, including Bob and the famous overcoat episode.
And I wore that coat tonight.
I got to tell you what that was briefly. We were at a restaurant, and I had a coat that I put on.
It was the Gale Street Inn.
And it was one of our monthly lead meetings.
Yes.
Okay. So I put the coat on, and I started driving out the expressway onto the airport. And all of a sudden, I got a phone call, and Bob said, "You have my coat, because I have your keys in his pocket." So I had to zoom back, but that was all fine. But every meeting ever since then, we've always said, "Well, Bob, where's your coat?"
Right.
But those are wonderful things.
Nick's always checking out the material I'm wearing just to see if it passes the grade so that he could take it before the day's over.
Just fascinating. Anyway, I made some notes what we were talking about from the time the organization was legally registered in the state of Illinois, when I have all the documents which were given to the club, from May 1st, 1940. Now at that time, there were 3 people that signed up, and they went through all the details. It's like a 27-page document concerning the food beverage. It applies today as well as when it was started.
And we're talking 3/4 of a century ago.
I guess you're right on that. The concept was having camaraderie with our customers and the leads of where everybody was located, what they were doing, and we had our famous parties, our spring party as we called it. That was conducted for years at the Furniture Club.
Furniture Club.
And that's what, up at the top of the Furniture Club, and every year...
And where was that located?
On North Michigan Avenue. I think it's 333 North Michigan.
And it's not the Tavern Club, it's the Furniture Club?
No, excuse me, on the Outer Drive, not the Tavern Club, which we've all gone to. as you know, Terry, you've been, you know how to scout this out. But they had that for years. Then from that point, when the Furniture Club was sold, we went to the Ambassador West, and had our spring party, which was a delightful affair.
Very well put.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've been very nice about it, and many events that had happened, which were wonderful. I want to put it this way: it was a gentleman's club affair. It was conducted very nicely. There was an aplomb about it. The doors blocked, of course, and in the original information about the club, it stated in there no women. Now you think of how we've advanced to this club today.
In fact, don't we have a woman past president?
Yes.
Yes.
And that would be
It was
Beth
actually
Gibbs.
during my presidency that we gave women suffrage.
Yeah, right, yeah, you're right. And I mean, that goes through. It's very interesting. There's something about this club which was just fascinating. It was so far connected with the city of Chicago. All the clubs, hotels, restaurants, and everything were just absolutely a vital part of it, and we were a vital part of all of these people. Club managers, people managers of hotels, including celebrities that we've known in the past that have been guests of our club, all the hockey people that played, and they were around, football players. Budkus was there for our affairs. We were completely plugged in. An interesting note, and we always had one product per category, with one exception, and that was Budweiser and Pabst beer. Okay. Gil Bollinger was Budweiser, Ray Michaels was Pabst. And the reason the organization allowed them to come in was that Pabst ran Sox Park, or Kaminsky Park as it's called. Budweiser was Wrigley Field. And that's how it operated. And that's why they sort of said, well, these two are not going to compete with each other in a hotel or a club.
And they share the same accounts anyway, so actually, I think maybe even trying to reach out and do like a beer division and get the beer guys involved,
You're
that
correct.
could be very positive.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
North side and south side beer division.
I think,
yeah,
yeah, there's...
Kind of like Al Capone and Bugs Moran.
no, you're right. There were some characters that you would ask me about as membership. We had a fellow by the name of Scotty Frazier, and it's a minor story, but I think it's humorous. Scotty traveled in Middle West, flew to St. Louis, and so forth and so on. And Scotty was a single man, but he had a lady in every port, so to speak. But what he did at the O'Hare Airport, if you remember, you could buy flight insurance at the hotel there. So you go to a machine and you put in a couple of bucks and get a policy for $100,000. So he would go down to St. Louis and meet his girlfriend and hand her this policy for $100,000.
Yeah.
And, well, and, you know, the rest is history. But he did this all the time. He was a member.
Well, what was the
That's
history?
a great line. Well,
Did
you
the
know
guy
what?
actually die in a plane crash?
Yeah.
Oh, he did.
No, the whole idea is the way that you're not picking up women, but you're showing them that you
really care
that you
and,
care about
you know,
them.
even
That
though-
was the way you did it.
Wow.
Even though when the plane landed, the policy just expired.
Of
you know.
course.
That's right.
Yeah, it was
It's
something.
like
That's
doing
right.
a
It cost
lottery
you $2.45
Right.
for a $100,000 policy.
He's the greatest.
I do have to say, I have a favor to talk about was Phil Gibbs, one of the finest members that I knew, because you'd ask me about memberships.
Yep.
Here was a fellow with a direction, honesty, straightforward, and really ran the club very well in his presidency. I'd like to make a note
Nicest
of
guy in the world.
Yes,
He
absolutely.
was.
that.
Never a sour word.
You know, absolutely.
And he smoked good cigars.
Well, right, and good whiskey, as I recollect it. You know, but
Well, that's pretty good. So how old were you when you got into the club?
My father let me in when I was 18 as a son, I guess, and also my brother. And he was a member for years. He was a president. I was president in '60. My brother was president in 1959, I believe.
That's over 50 years ago.
A long
How
time.
about that?
Yes, and so they had the Sievers dynasty in that era.
Right,
Oh.
that was correct. And he was the one that brought in Stewart's Coffee. We had, if you remember that, we had a number of, a lot of strong people, which they've changed their opinions as time goes on. But the club is continuing on, it's strong as it ever. It's a new world. Terry, the computer's the new world, the cameras, everything, internet is all changed. I have some comments which I think about the new members, because you would ask me about
Yes.
that. And what I think in a subject matter that, number one, the selection of restaurants by any member in the club has not been pursued as much as it should be. Every time there's a meeting, they should say, is there a place that you want to go that you may be open, that would be, our club could bring in 40 people for a lunch and spend some money. I'd like to have the newer members do this, because when I was president and as it went along, we allowed this all the time, as opposed to a luncheon committee.
And it's a great schmoozing tool.
It absolutely, in other words,
It is.
for instance, or you open up a place with your news, and you say, by the way, how would you like to have a luncheon for 40 people? And it's a sales
Very
tool,
gracious thing to do.
and it is, and it makes
And
sense.
of course, all the members are being perceived as being gracious because they're at the luncheon patronizing this business. So these are all their vendors. And the owners are generally there to make a little presentation to our group. And it's a very prosperous situation.
Yeah, I think that is. Then number two, I've watched the club over all the years, and certain times of history, there's always been cliques. There's a certain clique of people, then that disappears, they retire, and so forth. Then there's new cliques. I'd like to have the new members, we're schmooze with everybody else at a lunch. And I know we've made the effort, Luke Johnson, myself, yourself, have talked to the new people, bring them in. That makes our club the way it is.
Well, and after the new members come in, we put them for a member showcase so they can describe their wares to the group right after they're in.
You're absolutely right.
I think doing that is an important part of the introduction to being a part of what's going on as well. That way they feel like they're involved in the group and they get involved more quickly. The clique idea or thought is really very something that you see in fraternities and in most club events anyway. And I don't think that that's wrong. I think people gravitate to people they either know best or they have most commonalities with. But the thing that I enjoy most about this group is that there is such an overlapping of ideals and ideas and
People doing business with each other.
Yeah, and I think
And supporting
that,
each other, helping each other.
Right. And
we do that. That support is there.
The camaraderie is there.
Camaraderie is key, and that's why I say that we are as much a networking group as we are a leads group, because that networking part of it is extremely important.
There was one funny issue that you asked me about on on the internet, incidentally, which I have now. I'm thrilled with that at my age.
Hey,
And hey,
right.
as young as you could be. And we had two circumstances in the club, all the history, where one member kind of, what do I want to say, absconded some funds from different members for a scam. But there was only one that I knew of. And then the second one was there was a fellow that was going to bring us into the computer age, And in the computer age, he took the money and ran and disappeared. But that's all. We've never had an organization as long as this that's always been honest.
Yeah,
And that's
very
our whole genre.
Excellent.
And I thank you, gentlemen, for this. I'm going to give you the original informations and photographs and this other information about all where we went.
That's pretty good. You know, Bob, we came up with a couple of questions.
Well, these are the questions.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that we kind of talked about them ahead of time, it gave Nick a chance to kind of get his mind working a little bit and thinking about a lot of this stuff. And I think that it ended up being great for all of us to hear this right from a guy who's been here for so long. You know, I was thinking the next thing we ought to do is have a forum of everybody that's been here for more than 25 years and just kind of
nice?
have our own little schmooze fest.
Yeah, even a panel discussion.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
No, that would be fun, very much so.
Yeah, but any parting words for potential new members?
Interestingly enough, categories are where we should try to build up and constantly go after. I remember, and which is not a category anymore, it was the tobacco industry.
Yeah.
I went to a place to try to solicit somebody for that, but it's not used today, as we know. But I just think that if we constantly look and ask the members to find other potential vendors, it would make sense. And I think that it's one of the greatest clubs I've ever known. I'm thrilled to be a member, as you spoke about. All the people you know, it's a fraternity that you cannot explain, for wonderful people, wonderful ideas, and it just constantly is, and I anticipate it'll go on forever.
Well, those words are important coming from you, and I think we echo those same words ourselves. And I think so many members that have been around for a long time feel the same way. And I hope people that see this, that are either new members or potential members,
Or even existing members.
they get the feeling that this is something very special, which it is.
Yeah.
The Food Beverage Equipment Executives is a special organization.
I thank you very much, gentlemen, for
Great.
the meeting.
With pleasure.
All right.
And our
Okay.
website is www.fbee.org. Thanks.